10 years ago, I watched in the news the stock market crash of 2008, and I watched the frightened people about the losses that they were making with more than 50% drop of the stock market, and their deception faces that made me wonder why was all that happening. And also I watched the time that governments made a great spending to rescue the banks, and the subsequent angriness of demonstrators in the street in New York with the Occupy Wall Street movement, in Madrid with the 15M movement, and then in London with their demonstrations. And everybody was holding papers against the banks, and about arresting the bankers, and that made me question why was all this happening. And also I watched the long queues, the kilometric queues at the Greek ATMs, and the police violence with the demonstrators, and I wondered, can we make a difference? Can we improve all this? Can we bring something different that can change how the system happens, so that we prevent these things from happening? And I've been working on this research for 7 years, mainly monetary research and monetary economics and banking, and how the system works. And it's been great. I've been enjoying this research, and here I bring the result of this work, and in the form of this presentation about the banking virus, and the tumbling 20s, and how Bitcoin can rescue the economy. So in order to introduce you to the banking virus, I've made up, I will tell you the story of Tumbling. Tumbling is an alien that falls down on Earth, and has the same needs as all humans. And also, so he starts farming, cropping, harvesting the ground, and mining and finding things on the ground, and bringing them to the market, as everybody does. And in the market, he learns about other products, and he trades. In his time, there's only barter, so he trades his product against other products, and he asks to the trader in the market what he can get. And the trader, that is called Jack the wizard, tells him that the best goods that he can get is some magic goods that allow him to produce in 1 day what before would took him 8 days. And he brings him an irrigation hose in order to irrigate the crops faster. And Tumbling accepts and just takes the irrigation hose, and he brings it home, and gets to increase his production like 10 times, and has so much surplus that he can employ more people and buy more magic goods and increase production, to the point where he gets to get a store in the market, and in order to sell all the products he has been accumulating with his work. And so Tumbling realizes that these goods, the magic goods, are very important, and he calls them capital goods, which allow him to produce faster. And capital goods are that important that he realizes that capital goods increases the the abundance of products, the quantity of products. So basically, all products are less and less valuable in the market because they are more abundant, and according to the law of supply and demand, the more supply there is, the less valuable is something. So basically, he starts worrying that all his products are devaluating in value, and he starts looking for things that don't devaluate with time, over time, and he finds out that money is. He asks first what products do not devaluate through time, and he finds out that they are like castles, art, and gold and silver plate. So basically, because gold and silver is more divisible and transportable, he chooses to trade all his products that he has in his shop only against gold and silver. And this is how money appears. Money is only a product that does not devaluate through time because it cannot be produced in more abundance with capital. So soon Tumbling is only exchanging his products against capital and money in order to save enough products to buy more capital, and everybody in the market seeing how Tumbling gets very successful at increasing his production. They start doing the same thing, and the trading becomes just a game of strategy in which everybody tries to get the most production against the less time and effort. And soon Tumbling goes further and finds out that he wants to join all the money in one place. And he makes a deposit, a safeguard deposit for gold and silver that he calls bank. But at the beginning, nobody wants to put his money at Tumbling's bank because they don't trust him. And so Tumbling is forced to make an agreement with the richest man and the most prestigious man that have more hundreds or thousands of employees, and these men agree to use the deposit bill instead of using gold and silver and depositing the gold and silver in the bank in exchange for low interest loans in order to expand production. And this businessman and this rich man get these loans after some years when first this businessman starts using the bills and paying employees in bills instead of gold, and as soon as the employees see that the way to the bank in order to convert the bill into gold is useless because everybody is using the bill and nobody cares about if it is a bill or gold, so they end up using the bill like the rich businessman, and everybody is using the bill around Tumbling, the alien. So Tumbling gets to lend this money to rich men, and they get to expand production so fast that in less than 100 years the production is running exponential, and this is what we called in Europe the Industrial Revolution. That the production was exponentially expanding. But there's a bad side. This is a two-sided sword, and there's a bad side that the bank was a poisoned chalice for everybody. That because the banking system is causing crisis, and because the debt, the credit that banks make are unpayable. Basically, this happens because at the beginning there was only gold and the bills of the deposit that were backed by gold. So the bills were almost like a product money, a gold substitute. So they were also very good at keeping and storing the value of wealth and production. So, but as soon as there is an additional quantity of bills that is printed, the quantity of money increases. First, this money is spent to buy capital products, so capital prices are going to increase first. And then as soon as the money filters down to the employees of capital product companies, all the products are going to increase in price. And as the prices start increasing, the prices of products start increasing, Tumbling says that he needs to raise interest rate, because otherwise the money that he has lent is devaluating, and he's losing money basically, because even though the debt balance is increasing, the prices of goods, of products, are increasing faster. So he's losing money. So basically, banks increase interest rate, and the demand for money also increase, because typically everybody is keeping money for 1 week. So if the prices double, you will keep double the money. If you are keeping now $20 and suddenly everything increases in price, doubles, it is likely that you will keep $40 instead of $20. And as soon as the interest rates increase, the cost of making projects and producing at credit increases, the financial cost. So everybody starts trying to redeem its debt. So everybody tries to work more in order to demand money. They try to sell their goods, to sell the capital that they have bought in order to make a project, and try to redeem the debt and the credit. And then there's a big quantity of money that is flowing out of circulation. All the bills are flowing out, and they are flowing out faster than what they were introduced, because when they flow out, they also include the interest that has been accumulated during the years of the credit, while when they were introduced, the bills, there was not this amount, this additional amount that is the interest. When the money shrinks, there are less and less customers, because people is, instead of trying to spend more because they have money and they are taking credits, they are in the country, they are spending less in order to try to redeem their debt. So they are trying to save, and this saving is making consumption fall, and probably as during the credit expansion, there were variations in prices. A bubble has been forming during all this time. So the bubble at this point in time, it's already in an advanced stage, and it's close to popping. So as soon as the money drains out of the market, the bubble is going to pop, and probably a crisis is going to happen, where many credit defaults make the economy enter a deflationary spiral, in which prices fall, and there are and we lay out people, we fire people, and so everything falls in price, and there are less and less customers. And this is the perfect time for bankers and these rich men that can that can access funds and credit in order to buy capital goods or even real estate goods at a very cheap price. And until the prices stay deflated and depressed until a new credit is done. Usually this is the government making a war, or spending in healthcare or schools. Like last time, the excuse to spend a great quantity of money and to make a big credit was Obamacare. Every credit must be greater than the previous one, because redemptions are greater than the credit because they include the interest rate. So in order to keep the quantity stable, the next credit must be greater than or equal than the redemption that has just happened before. So the next credit must be greater than the previous one. And this leads to an exponential growth of the quantity of money, making it lose all its value. And you can see in the charts that the quantity of money follows an exponential shape, while the purchasing power follows an inverse exponential, having lost more than 95% of the value since 1913. So this is the reason that the banking is a virus. It's a system that replicates itself and corrupts the system, corrupts the government in order to comply with their demands, and even removes data, as in the computer, because they change history in order to favor certain politics and certain things, and they influence a lot people. So it's a virus and it's very difficult to fight it, and I want to show it, for example, in the Tumbling 20s, why there is going to be a crisis in the 2020s, in the 2020, like next year. It's just happening right now. It's already, the stock market are already at the top, and all the baby boomers that were born between 1950 and 1960, they are going to have 60 years old, like very soon, if they didn't already had it. And it's very important for them to learn about these things and to prevent their wealth to halve in the next year or in the next 2 years. So what happened last time there was a crisis? In order to introduce you to the Tumbling 20s, I'm going to introduce you to what happens usually when there is a crisis. As you can see in the chart, the most usual way to reflate the quantity of money and to create more credit is to lower the interest rate. For example, in the dot-com bubble in 2000, the interest rate was lowered from approximately 6.25% to 2% in the span of less than 1 year. And in 2008, the same happened, but it was not enough. Like, even having lowered the interest rate from more than 6% to 0.75, it was not enough, and nobody was taking more credits because nobody who trusted the economy would be relaunched, especially after the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers and almost Citibank and the bailout. And there was a very difficult problem of trust in the economy. So nobody wanted to take a debt. So we can see in this chart that there was no credit taker because nobody, the shape of the credit, of the total debt in the economy was exponential until 2008. And we can check that it was exponential by looking at the derivative of this curve, looking at the variation of the debt that was also drawing an exponential shape. And since 2008 it stopped and it was not anymore exponential. So basically what central bankers did when nobody was taking a credit, even after lowering the interest rates close to zero, was printing money. Like really, like increasing the quantity of banking monetary units, by simply buying bonds and buying financial instruments, buying things to people that has great wealth, intangible wealth, but that have a great wealth, and they introduced directly, they bypassed the need of a credit taker and introduced the money directly into the financial markets. And that worked because suddenly people had so much more money and they were able to consume more again and to spend money. And the excuse was they targeted an interbank rate. They put a target in the interbank rate, and they said they would buy all the bonds it was needed in order to keep the interbank rate within the range, the target range that they had set. So that worked until 2015, when they started to raise interest rates again, and the interest rates stayed for 6 years, from 2009 to 2015, at a very low level, between 0 and 0.25. And since 2016, the interest rates have been rising from 0 to 2.4 until this summer, till September, and August, when they started to fall again because the central bank has already is anticipating a crash, especially because of the interest rates, the long-term interest rates have already fallen, because people prefers to have the smart investors prefer to have a bond for 3 years or for 10 years at 1.7% than than renewing every 3 months at 2.4. But this is statistically, usually people the debt is more risky when it's longer term, because there is more risk than somebody is going to make a default on the long term than on the short term. If we lend to 30 years, usually it's more risky than to 2 years. But right now, smart investors are preferring the 2 years or to the 10 years than the 3 months, because the 3 months they believe that they will have to renew this debt at a lower interest rate, which is losing money for them, basically. So basically, even the interest rates have been rising, so the financial cost has been increasing. And despite the tax cut that Trump has made and all the exuberance that has been around this news, profits have been unchanged since 2013. So stocks more than doubled since 2013. So basically, stocks are probably way too much overvalued, and there is a pending correction, a downward correction to be done by the market, and that is going to be a crash. And there are also other clues in order to expect a market crash, as for example the baby boomers that will need to withdraw this money in order to live, and they are arriving at the retirement age, and making them a good time making them put a selling pressure on the market, so the market is going to go down. So basically, how this is going to happen, probably the crash in the stock market is going to lower consumption, and the lower consumption will make inventories to pile up in the shops, and prices, as inventories pile up in the shops, prices and production will be falling also, and companies will be closing projects. So unemployment unemployment will be rising, and unemployed people will be consuming less. And this is the normal, the classic way the banking crisis happen, and then when this happens for 1 year or 2 years, banks have a perfect time to buy capital or real estate at a very cheap price. So, but all this could be avoided even if it can sound very, very harsh and cruel and weird that I say this, it could be avoided by removing the minimum wage. Actually, if we remove the minimum wage, basically wages would be lowered. When we lower production, we would lower the wages, and instead of firing people. And even if in appearance wages would be lowered, this decreased amount would be able to buy more goods, because prices have fallen faster than wages, and then the savings that people would have would be able to buy more capital, and more capital would be competing for the same labor. So the labor portion of revenue would increase, because proportionally the wages would be greater than the profits portion of the revenue, and that would bring a more inclusive system in which everybody can earn a good living and save money, instead of only the richest can buy cheap the capital, and sell expensive. So this is what Bitcoin is able to bring to the humanity and to the economy, is a money that does not devaluate, but instead only reevaluates, because there is always more demand for it. So the Bitcoin rescue is going to happen during the Tumbling 20s. I believe that when there will be run on banks in the dollar, people will be placing their money in Bitcoin, and I want to explain why. But basically, there's this cultural movement going on for centuries already that is called decentralization. Basically, when we have a cooperative problem, a collective problem, and we want to cooperate in order to achieve a mission or something, a goal, a collective goal, we can do it in two ways. As Clay Shirky puts it, we have the institutional response from one side and the cooperative infrastructure from the other side. Usually, the cooperative infrastructure consists in bringing to the people an infrastructure that lets them collaborate without having to create an institution that is directed or governed by some people. Some examples of institutional responses are religion or corporations, in which there is a head that dictates to all the other, top down, the instructions to achieve the goal, and the goal, even the mission. While examples of a cooperative structure are, for example, science, in which no head or no directing organ has dictated to every scientist what he has to bring to science, but rather everybody has been reading all what happened before, or learning all what happened before, and contributing what he could to the science. And the same happens with commerce. Everybody just goes to nature and brings what he can to the city, and together we just from a decentralized way we get to make a bazaar in which everybody can buy something, and yeah, it's great, a bazaar, a shopping mall. And this has been put also by Eric Steven Raymond, a programmer that is author of The Art of Unix Programming, as the cathedral and the bazaar. The cathedral is an architecture that is done top down by an architect, and everybody executes the instructions of the architect, while a bazaar is a structure in which everybody brings something, and then there is as a whole a bazaar that gives access to so many products to the peasants and to the passing people. So Bitcoin and Ethereum applicate decentralization in three different ways that make them much more reliable and transparent than the banking system as a monetary system. The first way is a decentralized development. Each time that we use Bitcoin or Ethereum, we have the guarantee that it has been developed, that the code is open source, so we can dig into what is being executed on the computer, and we can learn all this, even if it takes some mathematics, but it is already available on the internet, and so much people is learning it and bringing new material that is easier than the previous one in order to understand what is Bitcoin really in the in the box. And this is opposed to commercial development, in which, for example, as Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and all these commercial brands that develop things for themselves hide the code so that nobody can see it and provide this application to others. But this is not very didactic for people, because people only uses the application and never learns the code that is inside. and the code is very important also, and it's good to learn as everybody. This is like in the 15th century when the printer was the printing press was invented, and nobody used to know how to read, only 2% of the population, and then everybody started learning along the with the centuries, and the same is going to happen, is likely to happen in the next decades with coding, because computers have only less than 100 years, and it's likely that in the next decades more and more people will be able to learn to code, and it's already available, so many tutorials for free on the internet. So decentralized development is the first way Bitcoin and Ethereum apply decentralization. The second way they apply decentralization is decentralized cryptography. Basically, mainstream applications as Facebook, Google, all use servers, centralized servers that contain all the keys that are used to encrypt communications between the server and the client. And this is first a threat to privacy, because a hacker could hack the server, crack the server, and find criminal hacking. I'm speaking about criminal hacking, and supplant the identity of the users, the clients, in order either to send money, to send himself money, or either to steal the photos of the users and blackmail them. So this has already happened, and it happens, it keeps happening. Facebook accounts have been hacked, Twitter accounts have been hacked, even the Twitter's CEO account has been hacked. So it's not impossible that that happens, and it's a threat to privacy. And also servers are a threat to security, because they contain all the keys into one place. They are a honeypot for the hackers that can get access to so many different identities at once by hacking one computer, which is the server. And in the contrary, Bitcoin and Ethereum use public cryptography, which means that basically each node or each wallet, each user of the system has his own private key that can decrypt the communications or encrypt communications. Encrypting is like signing a message. It allows everybody to verify that with your public key that you have been the one that signed it, and encrypting it with your public key is the perfect way to send you something secretly that nobody can see, because only you will be the one that can decrypt it. So already this technology, this cryptography, is used by Emule or BitTorrent or PGP, which are technologies or applications that use public cryptography instead of private cryptography, because they do things that they cannot put on a server because they are not legal, but it's already sometimes they are not legal when there's a copyright, but at least it allows the application to work, and the way to it's a way to do it, make it happen. So Bitcoin can make Bitcoin and Ethereum use decentralized cryptography that is not all into one server, and also they use decentralized. The third way they use decentralization, they apply decentralization, is decentralized execution, meaning that the execution of the application is not made into a server, which is centralized, but rather into a handful of nodes that are distributed around the world. And this allows the applications that are run on Ethereum, or the transactions, the smart contracts. I discovered recently that Bitcoin has also smart contracts, but at a very low level, difficult to program as a high-level programmer. They are basically unstoppable. as they are not executed into one computer, one server, they are executed in a distributed way into thousands of nodes or millions of nodes, millions of computers around the world. This makes them more secure, more reliable. The application cannot be stopped, cannot be hacked, or there cannot be a denial of service attack unless the whole system is taken down. And this is very difficult, as millions and millions of computers must be corrupted, which is not an easy task for any hacker. So decentralized execution is more reliable than centralized execution. Also, Bitcoin is coming to the rescue because the quantity of the Bitcoin quantity is scheduled in advance, and there is it's the supply schedule is already scheduled for forever, and it started at 50 bitcoins per block issued. 50 bitcoins were issued per block at the beginning in 2009, and every 210,000 blocks it halves. So approximately every 4 years the reward per block is going to halve, and next May in 2020, in May 2020, the Bitcoin reward will halve again. So and this makes that the quantity is never going to surpass 21 million. And then Bitcoin is never going to expand exponentially the way the dollars are expanding in our days. And then they are better money, electronic money, and more transparent electronic money than dollars and banking money. And secondly, Ethereum has been developing, Ethereum and Bitcoin have been developing a thick protocol. That usually the web has been developed as a thin protocol where thick applications would reap all the profits of the internet, as for example Facebook, Google, and Twitter. They reap great profits of the ads on internet. What is going to make the new thick protocol is that the users receive most of the profits out of the applications, and that the applications are very thin and take very little profits, but rather just use some commissions or fees in order to run. But most of the revenue out of the applications is going to stay in the protocol or be distributed to the users, which is great because all the content creators, the video creators will earn more, at least almost 100% of the revenue out of their creation and their videos, instead of 55%, I think, what's YouTube giving and Twitter giving, like, or YouTube is giving 45 and Twitter 55. Anyway, the users will benefit from this new decentralized technology. Thank you very much for listening. Please leave your feedback, your questions and comments below, and we'll answer as soon as possible. And you can join us on Twitter at Tumbling 20's, or you can visit our website tumbling20s.com, or just send us an email and we'll answer as soon as possible. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.